Hey everyone, Ralph here. Sad to say, but this show, The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, is going to be our last Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast, at least this iteration of the show. It's interesting because Eternal Sunshine was one of the films our original Mother podcaster, Hassan Hassan, wanted us to do 8 years ago, and we never got around to doing it, and here we go. We're going to close it out with this one. And I'm closing it out for many reasons, but the most important is I wanted to get back to the original version of the show, which was us around a pool table in my basement, in person. Now, when COVID happened, we switched to the Zoom, which turned out to be a nice thing because I was able to bring my brother in from Massachusetts and our guys in Baltimore. We were bringing interviews in, but it lacked that quality that sitting around a table kind of has, because the Zoom is a little different trying to talk with everybody. You know, it's difficult, as you know. So this is my new set for my new show called The Cinematic Lounge, which I'm going to co-host with my wife, Maria. We're going to do like a 25-minute version of reviews and talk about what films mean to us, and even go back to some of the stuff we did on Yippee-Ki-Yay, you know, talk about old films and what they mean to us. We'll bring various guests on, including some of the guys from the Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast. I'll go on their shows if they have them. We're all going to be under the same banner, the Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast YouTube page. So my brother John is still going to do his 10-ish minute Indian reviews, his Indian Cinemaniac reviews. And the other guys may come up with shows as well. But this is going to be my show for now. We're going to see how it goes, see if we get any views. And I hope it goes well. Thank you to everybody who watched our shows, who subscribed to our shows. I can't thank you enough, including our Indian audience that we picked up when we did the RRR review a few years ago. They've been loyal, comment all the time. I'm going to miss that portion. But, you know, they're still going to be around. They're still going to be on John's show. So hopefully they watch this one as well. Who knows? I may even do Indian films on this one. We may watch a couple and review those. So again, thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching and supporting us. We look forward to more of these in the future, and I hope you continue watching. So here we go. Last show, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Why remember a destructive love affair? Here at Lacuna, we have perfected a safe, effective technique for the focused erasure of troubling memories. In a matter of hours, our patented non-surgical procedure will rid you of painful memories and allow you a new and lasting peace of mind you'd never imagined possible.
Yippee-Ki-Yay, Mother.
Welcome to the party, pal!
Welcome to another edition of Yippee-Ki-Yay Mother Podcast. What is going on, Mother Podcasters? Put those down, John. Put them down.
Hey, Ralphie boy!
Hey.
What's going on?
Good.
There's a whole Q Brothers sideshow going on right
sideshow.
Don't prod the bear.
This light
Just so
is
everybody knows,
bright.
he puts a...
This light
Okay,
is
now
so
I'll talk
bright.
again. It is bright. All right. Welcome to this week's edition. Hello, everybody. How was your week?
It was great.
Not bad, not bad.
We'll see if you want to erase it or if it was a good week. So we're doing another one of our chosen by our Indian audience films. This week was my poll called The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. There's a little backstory to this one. Sean, I don't know if you remember when we started the podcast about 7 years ago now, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Hassan Hassan was one of our original members, and he raved about this film. And I had never seen it back in 2004 when it came out. And I'm like, it's Jim Carrey. How good could it be? How good, you know, whatever. I watched it a month ago, even before we had to do this one. And I just fell in love with this film. So that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about The Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, starring Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. After which we'll do What'd You Watch? And then we'll spin again. There's two more films left, The Arrival and Dragon Slayer.
Not The Arrival.
Not The Arrival starring Charlie Sheen, which is a classic.
That is a classic.
It gets
It's
a
not
lot of
that one.
special treatments. Like I said, I got a special laser disc, and it's a classic in its own. But next week, we're going to do Indian Cinemaniacs, and we're doing Barfi. So the week after that, we'll do whatever the film we spin this week, okay? Get all that.
So we're doing barf first.
Yeah,
Well, it's got an
Barfi.
exclamation point, so have some enthusiasm. Barfi!
Barfi! Okay,
Barfi.
that's what we're
Barfi.
doing next week. But this week, it's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Came out in 2004, directed by a Frenchie named Michel Gondry.
Is this the second film of his that we've had?
I
What was the
believe
other
it is.
one?
Be Kind, Rewind.
Oh, really? That was his as well, huh?
That was Drew's first or second choice. If I'm
That
not
was a
mistaken.
very, very good film.
Yeah.
Very quirky,
Same
just like
vibes.
this one. Yeah, same vibes. Obviously starring Jim Carrey, Kate Winslet, Tom Wilkinson, Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo, Kirsten Dunst, David Cross. Great cast.
David Crosby.
Jane Addams, who legally had to be in every movie of the early 2000s that was made by
She's
an
really good. She
independent
plays
studio.
David Cross's wife, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cute little interaction. Anyway, this film is about relationships. It's got very interesting framing, the way the film. And, oh, by the way, written by Charlie Kaufman, who also wrote adaptation. What is that?
Adaptation.
Adaptation.
And this movie won
and
the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay.
This one did.
And being John Malkovich.
And being John Malkovich.
Yeah,
right?
he wrote that as well.
So interesting writer, quirky as hell. I didn't see it when it came out because I just wanted to see Jim Carrey do more Ace Ventura and more Liar Liar and films like that. And I didn't take him seriously as a serious actor, which is why I didn't like Truman Show either. I didn't like Truman Show. And I forget, when did Truman Show come out? Was it before or after?
98, I believe.
So that was before, and I'm like, I can't deal with him doing these. And I was wrong. He's fantastic. All right, so the framing of the film is it's about a relationship that Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, they have a meet cute at the beginning of the film. We're going to spoil the film, by the way. You all right, Sean?
Yeah, we can spoil it.
Can I just interject for a moment? John, I see you, buddy. I see you.
Oh, he's doing Jim
His
Carrey.
expression hasn't changed for the last hour.
Yeah, he's
so.
playing. He's doing Jim Carrey. He's a method guy. All right, so it starts.
I'm dramatic acting.
It looks like we're seeing a meet cute with Jim Carrey meeting Kate Winslet in Montauk at the beach. But as we get into the film, we realize what we've seen is it's sort of backwards. So the film takes place over 2 years, essentially. And it's about someone, Kate Winslet decides that she wants to... Okay, so it's hard to explain without just giving it away.
Shit. It was hard to watch.
That was not hard to watch. So there's this process to that in this film, the conceit is there's a process where someone can erase all your memories. And Kate Winslet decides to erase the memory of Jim Carrey, Joel, her boyfriend, of 2 years. They have a terrible breakup. And she decides to have her mind erased. And every one of their friends if she gets her mind erased, everybody that knows Joel in their relationship would get a card saying, I forget her name in the film, Clementine. If you're a friend of Clementine and Joel, please don't talk about Clementine in front of Joel. She has erased him from her memory. And this movie's about Jim Carrey's process of going through the same thing. He decides when he finds this out that he's going to have his mind erased, and the movie is about his getting his mind erased, although in the film you can see he's fighting to keep her in his memory. And so the film is
one thing. Well, you're making it. I mean, it's not a mind eraser. It's a very specific
memory eraser.
Bad memories.
It's a
what
certain
he decides
memory.
are
not bad
Yeah,
memories,
that's right.
but memories.
Right, but their mind doesn't get erased.
They're memories that they pick that they want to erase.
Right, a specific memory.
So they come to this doctor with all the elements that they want to. They use
Pictures
these
and
artifacts
items.
and pictures and items to erase.
And
their
they
memory of
check,
that
they
person.
look at them and get their a reaction in their mind of where it stimulates it, and then they eliminate those.
So what we've actually seen at the beginning of the film is what happens after he gets his mind erased and he meets her again. The credits don't come in for 18 minutes, and that's the first part of the film is their meet cute. So you think you're seeing this romantic comedy about these two people. You're about to sit down and watch this. It fades to black after about 20 minutes, and it picks up essentially 2 years prior when she's getting her mind erased, her memories erased, and it's the breakup that they had and why.
But you think it's like 2 years later.
You think it's 2 years later. So they're flip-flopping timelines on us. So the whole movie is taking place in Jim Carrey's head with conversations he's having both with himself and her and other people in his life. And it's very, very, very dreamlike. The way they shot this, technically, the way they did this and the stuff they were doing. It really feels like you're in this guy's memories. And the whole movie, he is struggling with this because he doesn't want to forget her. And ultimately, it's a movie about enduring love, that love is the one thing you can't erase, because ultimately he gets his mind erased, she gets his mind erased, and they still hook up and meet up again because of the dream he was having while he was getting his mind erased. And there's some beautiful scenes where they're trying to hide from the people that are. There's this whole scene with the doctor's assistants who are actually doing the mind erasure, the memory erasure thing, while he's unconscious on his bed. This is Mark Ruffalo and Elijah Wood. There's a creepy side thing with Elijah Wood, who stole Jim Carrey's memories and then started going after Clementine and actually dated her using the things that she remembered about Jim Carrey's character. I mean, I've watched this movie twice, and the second viewing, obviously, and as I was listening to the commentary on the film, Charlie Kaufman talked about, a lot of people told him well, we're just going to
erase that memory, please.
We're just going to erase that memory. Okay. Charlie Kaufman was told that people enjoy watching this film over and over because once you figure out the hook, once you figure out what's going on, you really start paying attention, and it makes a way more sense than maybe the first viewing. I love this film.
Yeah, it's cool because it looks like it would have been this crazy puzzle to make from a production standpoint, and the stuff that they do that's so inventive and innovative, and then it becomes a fun puzzle to solve if you dig the movie. And so seeing it again is definitely rewarding, I think.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I don't know how they pulled some of this stuff off, and a lot of it is non-CGI. They use CGI to cover some things up, but a lot of in-camera tricks where they're having those guys bounce in and out of frame, and it's just really wonderful when you listen to the director's track and you find out some of the things they did. How'd you guys? So had anybody seen this before?
Yes.
John, had you seen this before? Okay. You're just going to stay in the Jim Carrey depressed role. Is that what you're doing right now?
I mean, I saw that for 2 hours. You guys can put up with it for an hour.
All right, so let's get your feeling on the film, John. I'll get you out of the way so you can just stare passively at the camera for the next hour.
This would be so unlike normal shows that we do. Look, this movie is not my cup of tea.
Oh,
I found it. About halfway through it, I was like, okay.
What is it you don't like? You don't like love? You don't like?
That's what it is, Ralph.
I'm just wondering what you don't like.
I don't like love. I think love's a joke. No, I found. Look at Jim. I like Jim Carrey, and I know when he does dramatic. This was dramatic because his hair was messy and he was very serious the whole time and kind of depressed. I thought Kate Winslet was the best thing in this film. She's amazing, and that
charming,
American accent she does is friggin' unbelievable. How she nailed that. But I thought she was the best thing. I'll tell you, as I'm watching the movie, it was
John.
confusing.
Have you heard any how the director directed these two for the film?
Well, I did. Obviously, after I saw it, I read into it. So I will say, from a technical standpoint, the way they did some of the things, I found much more interesting than the movie itself. So seeing a lot of that stuff and then reading about it afterwards was pretty, like, that one shot where Jim Carrey's looking at himself and he was actually in the same shot. They did that in camera. He just took the clothes off, went to the chair. I find that really, really interesting. And a lot of the stuff was improvised. The elephants going on the street, that wasn't something that they planned. It happened to be there. So they just filmed the two of them doing that. That I find really interesting. I will say this. The thing for me that I'm not going to say it saved the movie for me. But I will say that the ending I really, really liked. You want to talk about love. They both realize that eventually the odds are they're not going to be together. But Jim Carrey says, so what?
He says, okay.
That to me was a great ending. And that tells you all about love. Everyone's been through painful breakups, and your instinct is you want to erase it out of your mind because it's so painful. It can be very painful. But the reason why it's so painful is because you had such joyous moments when you're with that person, or it wouldn't be painful, right? You don't want to forget the good stuff just because the bad stuff is so painful. But the movie, for me, it was all over the place. It was a little too artistic. You know what I mean? It was very arty, and that's just not my cup of tea. But again, I will say the performances were pretty good. I thought she was fantastic, and the ending for me just saved it for not hating this movie.
That whole hallway ending, they were trying to write.
I love that.
They wanted
because I wasn't expecting that.
They were going to write
when
a whole
she's
soliloquy.
listening to the tape.
Oh,
when she's listening to
devastating.
that tape,
Devastating.
and his look on his face as she's listening to it, and she said, it's only fair that I listen to this now too. That was pretty amazing. And you think, okay, she's going to walk out, and then he goes after her, and that whole scene.
Well, they were trying to write a whole soliloquy for him, and they just couldn't come up with anything, and they just decided on the word "okay." Okay, so
yeah,
okay.
I loved it. I thought
Yeah.
that for me turned.
Well,
it
and then
around.
they end on
I read that ending a little differently. I think it's fair to read it the way you're reading it, which is that they basically say, we're it's going to go wrong, we're going to break up. Okay. Whereas I read it a little more hopeful in that we're not perfect. It's not going to fit anything. These are the hard things. Okay, so they might break up, but they're not doomed to break up. They might actually
it could go either
become
way.
something different together. Yeah. And that was I think the ending is beautiful as well. I think your read of it is totally fair. Like, we're doomed, but who cares? Because like you said, the reason you'd want those memories to be gone is because they're painful, because they were wonderful times. I totally respect that reading, but it feels more hopeful than that to me.
I would like to think that. But Ralph doesn't like sappy endings like that, so that's why I just assumed it wasn't.
I don't.
This wasn't sappy.
Sorry, I'll talk about the rest of the movie, but I did want to jump into the ending because we're kind of on the ending already. I'm going to throw this out here. I didn't find that ending very hopeful because there's a couple of funny little edits there at the end that make you think that they just keep doing this again and again and
like
again.
A loop?
Yeah, if you've noticed, like when they walk into that snowstorm, it cuts back.
It's repeating.
Yeah. It's repeating like 3 times until it just fades into the white
But when you listen to the director's track, he talked about how that was a positive ending. It hopeful ending because it faded to white.
And again.
It faded to white and they are going to repeat. I think they're doomed. I think they're doomed to repeat. I think even if they break up again and they decide, because I don't know in the book, but I think she might have erased a few times. She said, "I'm impulsive. I do this all the time." And it may be that their love is so strong that they're just going to keep coming back over and over and over.
And maybe
it's
like
toxic.
Interstellar. It's the same thing. That's what got.
I will say one more thing: the Kristen Dunst twist there.
It's great.
I didn't see that coming. That was I like that. That was interesting.
I thought it's funny because I loved Kier. I thought this was some of the best work she's ever done. Kristen Dunst. I loved her in this film, and I loved her relationship with the doctor and everything. And when they drop it on you that it's been done, that it keeps happening. Their relationship keeps happening, and that I just love that part. I mean,
and if the wife knew,
sad.
That was devastating when the wife says, "Oh, poor girl, just tell her what happened." Right. And that twist, and Mark Ruffalo, he
and his tidy whities.
Oh, so that's all improvised too. Anyway, so
now you see you're being influenced a lot by director commentaries and writer commentaries.
I liked it because of that? What are you talking about?
Well, I think it's affecting your viewpoint on the film, and
no, all the YouTube videos I watched after really had a lot to do with it. Because I was affected by the film. I just thought it was beautiful. Well, there are scenes where they're in bed together as the dreams are happening, and she's holding a coffee cup with her picture on it. And the next cut they show, the picture's gone off the coffee cup, and his dreams are happening, and he's escaping into places he doesn't think they're going to find him, like his boyhood, his childhood, and
beating that kitchen to death
under the table, and all that stuff was just on a second and third watch, I start picking up on things I never picked up before, and it just made the film smarter and better. Yeah, I'm definitely influenced, and I was influenced by what they were saying, of course, because I want to know what the thought process was of what they were doing, and it enhanced. Now, when I see like the car that falls when she's walking, and some of the other choices they made, I can see why they did it, and it's a fascinating thing to do. They're shooting out in the snow. I mean, they purposely did that for the feeling of what it. Yeah. So Sean, is that you're being a bit cynical? I think. Or dismissive about me listening to the director's track. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
He's saying your opinion of it is influenced by what a normal viewer wouldn't do.
No, I loved it. No, I loved it before. I didn't hear the commentary till
but not all the
my
context
second viewing.
Around it. Right.
My second viewing is when I listen to the commentary. Not before.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair point Sean's making.
Maybe it could be.
Yeah. Well, I saw this film in the theaters when it first came out, and
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. This is kind of reminiscent of my review of Under the Skin. I didn't quite like it as much this time. You know, for some reason, I was willing to buy Jim Carrey more the first time when I saw the film. And I just thought he was a weak link in the film. You know,
Wow,
sorry,
really?
Jim, if you're sorry, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he's watching for sure.
Yeah. Oh, trust me, he's watching.
He's probably in his 12,000 square foot basement crying, because that's not the biggest basement that you can get, but he probably has a big one.
I don't.
But you know, here's the thing. You know, when back in the day, Charlie Kaufman. You know, it's hard to imagine an influence a screenwriter would have. Like when Pulp Fiction came out, you know, he was just created this huge professional amateur screenwriting world. Everybody wanted to be Quentin Tarantino. And then this came out. And I mean, like, if you were, once upon a time, there were like things called magazines and all, and about screenwriting. And it was all like, man, Charlie Kaufman. And he is a wild visionary. You know, he really is. And I didn't see his most recent thing, but, you know, and everyone was in awe of him, you know, particularly that he was able to get these movies made, you know, these scripts that are, because they're, you know, it's an extraordinary body of work, you know, and, you know, I really admired him. But, you know, and one thing I really admired about this are like when they're in that big beach house at the end and the house is like falling apart and suddenly there's snow in it and there's water. And as they're doing these sequences, you know, they're doing all these practical things. You know, this wasn't just a bunch of stuff shot on green screen.
No, they moved a house into the water. They built
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That to me is so cool. And you can tell they did it. You could tell that this was real physical stuff. And that always makes me so happy in the world now, because everything is so fake all the time. So
the forced perspective in the kitchen. They would have done that with green screen. That's all forced perspective. And it was beautiful. It was great.
Yeah. You know, so there's a ton of great stuff in this movie, but I think Jim Carrey was a weakness. But to me, the main problem is this 20-minute meet cute at the beginning. It's sort of like, I just didn't care about them as a couple watching it this time. I didn't think that this was a love that should be preserved and fought for at all costs. You know, I just didn't.
Well, because they didn't establish that. Is that what you're saying? They really didn't establish that relationship.
They established that she was the driving force in that relationship.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I just couldn't imagine why she's the pixie girlfriend.
You know. She's not.
She's not, because she's crazy.
Absolutely not.
She's crazy.
No, because she explicitly says in the bookstore when it sort of crosses from him remembering it to him having a conversation with her in his mind, she specifically says, it's not my job to fix someone. It's not my job to show you what your life is really about, which I think is very interesting, because this came out the same year as Garden State, which is a definite manic pixie dream girl movie, and they have a lot, I think, in common in tone and from their era. But I like that the movie spelled out.
But remember, in the dreams, she's not saying it. He's saying it. He's basically talking to himself. It's when you ever dream about somebody you're talking to, you're really not talking to them. It's you relating. You're putting your thoughts in their head, basically. In their words.
True. You're extrapolating from the real conversation.
Because your memories and stuff. I mean, there's
and the more the books fade away and everything, the more that
he is
you're
like
inventing
a
it.
boring, dull guy, and she's the spark plug that like lights him up. So I think she is a pixie girlfriend. She's more meta maybe than other pixie girlfriends.
What do you mean meta? By meta meaning what?
I mean,
she was invented by Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, exactly. She could be with they were playing on that trope of.
They definitely were doing that. Yes.
So, but I think that even the fact that it was self-aware enough to point that out, it was, you know, I think she was the pixie girlfriend, and he's just this character, and it's sort of like, you know, John just sitting there with the hoodie on, just like looking at the camera, and it's sort of like,
I have such a different. I just found him.
I mean, I loved the film, and I went back to look at contemporary reviews, and everyone loved it. I mean, the script won an Oscar, if I'm not mistaken.
It did.
Screenplay, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I can see why it is a technical writing tour de force, and it's really well directed too, because
Very well.
when you look at how many times these things are repeated at different times and in different contexts, you really have to, regardless of what's in the script, you have to be really a really good director to know what the characters who are in this scene and playing this scene out, maybe for a third time, what they're feeling at that moment, because it's so easy to get lost in them. Actors tend to get into that moment and that scene.
Well, I love that he directed them.
Losing context.
The way he directed them is he pulls her aside and he says, "You're in a broad comedy." And he pulls him aside and he says, "You're in a drama. Play it like that." And Jim Carrey's fighting all his instincts to be jokey and do all the things he does all the time. And was fighting with the director, actually. There's a scene with the drive-in, that drive-in scene where they're in the car and they're mouthing what's going on. Carrey wanted to do all kinds of stuff that, I guess Sean's done. Chris, good. Chris, jump in. Or Drew, one of you guys, jump in.
Okay. Well, here's the thing:
this is a professional organization here. No, well, it's not actually. Oh my God!
You get what you pay for.
Where'd he go?
Yeah,
okay,
I don't know.
Chris, go ahead.
But so I saw it in the theater as well, and I haven't seen it since. Till
me either.
Here's and the funny thing is I remember a lot of things from this movie in the theater. And while this is one of those ones where it should have been perfectly up my alley. It has got my name written all over it. It just didn't resonate with me. And it's not that I didn't like it. It's not that I didn't think it was good. I found all of the supporting characters far more interesting than Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. Okay. I'm sorry I did. Elijah Wood, his weird little perviness.
He was great. He's great as a
Kristen
weirdo.
Dunst, the Doctor, all of them.
Mark Ruffalo was great.
Mark Ruffalo.
Everybody.
All of them were more interesting in my even like David Cross. Like I found him and his wife and that dynamic more interesting. And then when you layer on top, don't get me wrong, it's super creative. It's super creative filmmaking. But the second act of this movie, where they are running through their memories, is interminable. It feels like it goes on forever. And it just, for me, and it's funny, you know me, I like long movies. I can deal with long takes and all of that stuff. Yeah. But for some reason, it was like, I got it 15 minutes into the thing, and they were like, hey, let's go for another 10 or 20. And I was just like, please let me out of here.
And this was not a long movie. This was not a long
But my point is I just felt that running through the memory sequence.
It seemed repetitive, right?
I cannot disagree with you more.
Yeah.
Well, and here's another movie that a lot of people, and I'm sure people on this podcast loved as well, that I also found incredibly repetitive. And don't get me wrong.
A Room with a View. I was just guessing.
Actually, it's almost the same. Uncut Gems. That's another movie
I didn't see that one.
I sat down and watched that movie, and like, don't get me wrong, I get it. He is an addict. He's a gambling addict. I get it, but it just felt like it was the same 15.
That's Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Also trying to be a serious guy.
Right.
But once again, it was a weird thing because I like the film, I like the setup, I like the idea of it. I just really, and maybe it was because I didn't really buy Jim Carrey either as the super dramatic guy. I just didn't buy it. I like Kate Winslet. I thought she was good, but literally the fact that I found the supporting characters more interesting than the main characters, spending so much time with the two of them in the middle of the movie, and don't get me wrong, I get it, that's the movie. Just kind of was like, I was like, okay, if they had cut out some middle part, I would probably be raving about it more. But I really did like that ending, and like I'm telling you, I think those 3 cuts at the ending, or that repetition, I think it means just like Kirsten Dunst. I think that it's been.
I mean, it could be a glitch in the Matrix. It could be that it's going to happen over and over. And she admits that.
I don't think
in that hallway scene, she's like, "Look, I'm going to do this again. That's who I am."
Yeah.
And he's like, "I don't care." It's just, for me, the whole thing was him realizing that she was such an important part, and she was the reason they broke up. Basically, probably his depressive attitude too, because he was not open. And you're right, she's a spark plug. But he realized that without her, he's nothing. I mean, he's really nothing. He is nothing.
That's why I'm like,
he's an empty
why
suit.
would she stay with him?
He brought something, I guess. I don't know. Must have. For me,
it's sort of like American Fiction if you saw it. Anyone who saw American Fiction, and
I
the
saw
main
it.
guy, the girl, he gets this girl, and she's really interested in him, and he's kind of like curt and mean to her the whole time. I mean, Carrie isn't in this, but they break up, and it means so much to him, and it's sort of like, why? I just didn't buy that. Well, she would be with him, and I've had sort of a similar feeling with this. He was a more likable character, but he was still totally not her.
Oh, wow. But see, to me, she was the energy of the whole relationship. I was just like, for her. And you're right about the David Cross and his wife. They had the best relationship, even though it looked funky and they seemed like they were fighting all the time. But they're in every scene together. Every time you see those two, they're always together. And, you can tell that there's something there. There's some comfort in how long they've been together. And she's letting him fly the stupid plane. And he's ignoring her when she's carrying the cooler and she falls down. But there's something there. The Jim
It seemed
Carrey,
like a real marriage.
to me, it's all about Kate Winslet, her character. And maybe she is the pixie. Maybe it's the dream girl who. But, Drew, what about you?
Well, I think I run very hot and cold with Charlie Kaufman, actually more hot and cold than I do with Christopher Nolan. Like, I think, this is a great script. Be Kind, Rewind is the same kind of tone. I don't think he wrote that one, but I think Synecdoche, New York is unwatchable. I think Confessions of a Dangerous Mind is hysterical, although I haven't seen that in more than 20 years, so I don't know if it holds up. I saw this in the theater. I remember it came out like about 2 weeks before my birthday. And I had been looking forward to it, and I remember that I loved it. I also remember that I loved Garden State, which I rewatched recently and had a very different reaction to.
Garden State is not directed. Who's Garden State?
No, that was Zach Braff's. That was Zach Braff's movie,
right.
but it's part of that. I think there's these. Kelly and I were talking about this, and I think Sean, you and Kelly were talking about this today too. That like there's every movie sort of era, and it could be a few years, it could be 20 years, whatever, but there's always some element of reacting to something that was before it. And in the 90s, especially the late 90s, and this, I would say a lot of it is Pulp Fiction. That's not a criticism of Pulp Fiction. Pulp Fiction came out and then every movie had to imitate it for 20 years, like The Matrix, that sort of thing. But when I was working in Hollywood, I was reading scripts for production companies, and the one word that everybody wanted all the time, we're looking for something edgy. It has to be edgy. And that's a specific kind of dark, sarcastic, you're in on the joke or whatever. And these movies like this one are not that. This is after 9/11. This is more, I think it's both sad and hopeful. I think of it as like honest and hopeful, but I also think it's really, it's a weird fantasy version of a story to say that if you think a relationship is only going to be positive, then you're not really an adult. Like it takes work, it takes accepting each other for who you are, it takes maybe becoming something new and better together. And that might last, that might not last, that might not happen, but it's a kind of opening yourself up and trusting each other. And I think that's the way that adult relationships last. And I don't know anybody who's had a very long relationship or a long marriage who would ever say anything like it's always easy, it's perfect, whatever.
No, and the other
I don't know that these two are doomed to repeat in the loop because they're erasing the memories. But to me, a big part of the movie is the message, which I'm not like coming up with something different here. It's bad to erase those memories.
Right.
Because all you are is those memories. And if you get rid of, which I understand pain, but if you get rid of what hurts, then you are less than who you are. And what a surprise, you might end up repeating it over and over. And so this
without
movie
pain,
says,
you don't learn anything. You
don't learn anything. And it's not who you are. Like you could think of things in your life right now and you could say, I wish I had not had that happen to me. I wish that I had made this decision instead of that decision. But if there's anything that's working for you in your life right now, it's because of what you did and didn't do. And that is kind of the vibe that the movie gave me. The movie doesn't say their love is forever. The movie doesn't say they're going to make it. The fact that they have erased their memories makes it much more Groundhog Day, Edge of Tomorrow, all that kind of stuff. And those movies are aiming towards a possible like definitive happy ending. This is not doing that.
And the quotes that Kirsten keeps quoting, the Nietzsche and the other ones, one of them is about if you erase all your happy memories, then you're not going to learn anything. The other one, obviously they're plucking those things out, but well,
the name of the company. Did you see the name of the company that they hired to do this? Lacuna. which is Latin. It means lagoon, but it also means gap. So it's literally like I'm going to cut something out of my mind. I will say one thing. I loved that they didn't spend even 1 second explaining how this technology really works.
It just worked.
Because who cares? Right. I thought that was great. Like this, and I liked how low tech it was. It was almost as low tech as like Primer or something.
It looked like they had no money.
Right. Yeah, it was very sort of home-brewed.
That's why he has to hire these weirdos who are these are the only guys that are going to stay up all night drinking the guy's booze and eating all his food, and while he's unconscious on the. I mean, there's some little touches in there, like he wakes up and he goes to the liquor cabinet and his whiskey bottle's empty, and he kind of just looks at it, and goes, what's going on here? It's just a lot of little smart.
I thought I had more. I had more.
Yeah.
Well, there are so many things that happen in the background. Some of which, I mean, most of which you feel it, and some of them are really obvious. Like that car disappeared, and that fence is disappearing section by section. But there's some stuff like the scene where they get into an argument on the street about how she wants to have a kid. And instead of saying something like, let's talk later, or I don't know, he says, you don't know how to take care of a kid, and they end up fighting. And the people around them, their faces are getting all blurry, and it's getting fuzzier. And he grabs onto a signpost that disappears in his hand, like all these little things. And there's scenes that you can think of where that definitely happens, like the bookstore and whatever, but it happens throughout the movie, which I think is really interesting, because then you get the sense that his memories bleed into, like we said, talking to himself essentially in his head. And that's the most conversation that he has that's honest and real, is like, this is what I'm really thinking. I thought Jim Carrey was good in this. I don't think he was amazing. I love Kate Winslet, and even in movies that aren't good, she's wonderful. So I'm not surprised that she's sort of the dominant one. She's the one that got nominated for Best Actress that year. Jim Carrey did not. But I don't know. I mean, to me, Jim Carrey, like, I didn't like Ace Ventura. I thought Dumb and Dumber was an absolute riot. Like, I liked that Jim Carrey, but I like that he tried different stuff, and some of it worked for me.
Yeah,
Truman Show I really
that he tried,
liked, and Man in the Moon I really liked, and some of that is definitely okay. I'm going to get an
23.
Oscar. And, doesn't always work. But see, I thought that was dumb, but at least it was a different kind of thing.
Well, here's the thing. It's like, okay, Jim Carrey, he worked. I mean, I didn't have a problem with him the first time I saw the movie, but it's like, I'm watching it now, and I'm like, imagine if they had an amazing actor in this role.
Oh, come on! Wow,
I'm sorry.
See, I think he's giving the zero kind of energy, and the fact that it's him doing it is another layer of, like, you're expecting something different, and your reaction could be what I think some of your guys' reaction is, which is I'm disappointed, or it could be this is not the Jim Carrey that I know, so it makes me want to know. What is this? What's going on? That scene right at the beginning when they look like they're sitting at the same booth in the diner, and you're like, why would they be sitting together? And then it cuts to the wide shot and they're sitting all the way apart, and he's like, why do I fall in love with anybody who just looks at me, or something like that? And there's none of that vibrant anything. She has that, but it's, when you first meet her, it's super annoying. Like, she just seems like a lot and a big pain in the ass. But the movie doesn't say he's bad because he's quiet and doesn't share, and she's bad because she's kind of loud and crazy. It just says these two people are drawn to each other. It's interesting. Right. Yeah.
Don't you always look at people sometimes and go, how did those two get together?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
sure. He's not normal. He said he can't look people in the eyes. I mean, he's not normal, Ralph.
Well,
that doesn't mean he's on the spectrum.
No, he had a job. He had a job.
That's not a normal thing.
He's on the platform because he has a job.
She had the flashier role. I think it didn't matter who was in that Jim Carrey role, because she had the flashier role. I mean, to show his dramatics, he's got to be like, teary-eyed and somber almost the whole movie. There was only a few times when he a little bit of Jim Carrey came out. I don't necessarily blame him for that. Again, I think it's the role more than the performance.
I think his persona is hurting you guys viewing him in this role. That his
I disagree with that.
I mean,
that's fair.
An actor is the combination of his roles.
I wasn't looking for Jim Carrey to do anything goofy. I just think.
But you loved him in Truman Show, right?
I think I didn't love him in Truman Show. I liked Truman Show. I thought he was good in Truman Show. But he was a little too one note for me in this movie. And again, I think part of it is the script, and part of it is she had the flashier role. And in comparison to her, he's like almost a supporting character in the film where he's the lead. That's all. That's like what Chris said. The other characters seem far more interesting than him. and you wanted to see more of them than you did of him. And I think Sean made a great point that I didn't even think about. You want to buy into this relationship, this strong relationship that has caused so much pain to her, or she wants to erase it, and you never really see that building of that wonderful relationship because everything happens so quickly in the beginning of the movie. I think that's a fair point. So it does kind of, do you buy into
they show
their love that is going to survive?
Part of it is
mind erasure.
What was going on in the dreamlike thing is you're seeing also all the positive things that were happening in that relationship as well. They're funny with each other. The playfulness that they had, the whole ice thing became a big deal because Elijah Wood tried to repeat that, and that's when she finally realized something's going on here. I think I've been here, So there was a lot of positivity spread throughout the film about their like any relationship. You really only remember the negative things, the things that make you want to get out, or the things that made you want to get out.
You couldn't tell that based on all the songs I've been writing and putting on the internet.
Well,
that's other past relationships.
Okay. I think Jim Carrey would play your role playing that.
I think there are specific scenes where you see how they're good for each other. Like when she pulls him out onto the ice, it's like this guy could get something positive out of being drawn out of himself. That's good. And when he says, it's not the nicest way to say it, but when he says, talking all the time isn't the same as communicating, that's something that she, I think, needs to hear. And so there are little things that aren't grand gestures or whatever, but I mean, just because it seems to always end in this conflict where they give up on each other, I think, you're right, Ralph. There's a lot of positive things, and it's those little things too. If you think of somebody that you were with and you were no longer with, you might think of the great breakup, but if you were with them, especially for a while, it's not because you didn't like lots of things that might be little things about them. And that's the problem with erasing these memories, is you start pulling everything apart.
Yeah,
that's why the movie is comfortable saying this is bad.
I got tons of them. I mean,
well, I just want to reiterate something that Drew said, because I checked out a lot of reviews, and this film, a lot of the critics, the contemporary reviews that I saw that, and I just want to say, movie criticism was much better when this movie came out.
Yeah, what did Ebert say about this one, Sean? Do you have any?
He gave it 3.5 stars.
3.5,
really yeah. Pretty much everyone gave it 3.5 stars, which made me wondering, how come no one's pushing it to 4? But one thing a couple people said, this film is sort of signaling it's okay to care again, which is what Drew was talking about, reactions. Because in the 90s, everything, in the late 90s, everything became so cynical.
It was so cool, yeah.
Yeah, and and it was okay to be mean, like Company of Men, say, and things like that. And be detached. Yeah,
I don't
Company of Men is super nasty. Great film.
Yeah, I don't think it's saying it's okay to be mean either, but
yeah,
it is a super mean film. But I don't think that's what it's going.
I don't think the movie's saying it's okay to be mean, but I think a lot of movies of every scale that were being made were just a lot sort of edgier, nastier. That's what people were seeing, and like I actually was at the Cannes Film Festival. That was when In the Company of Men came out. So I met Neil LaBute, I met Aaron Eckhart, I talked to these guys, and I said, like, I was very excited to see this movie. Also, it made me feel really bad, and Neil LaBute smiled. So,
yeah, I mean,
they achieved what they wanted to achieve, and then he did Your Friends and Neighbors, which is completely insane. Yeah. So
this movie came out the same year. By the way, this movie came out the same year as The Notebook. Okay.
Yes, it did.
That was okay to care then too.
I think it's a good balance. And Harry Potter.
Well, but even the Matrix is like sort of dark, edgy, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the Matrix,
it's a love story.
It's a love story, and it's literally like my love brought him back, and that's not that different than a lot of other movies that people have these strong reactions to. Interstellar has all this incredibly realistic science and all these effects and all this kind of stuff, but at the end of it, like, love is stronger than gravity. I mean, you can think it's goofy, but that's the message.
The hair on my arms went up when he whispers in his own dream, "Meet me in Montauk."
Yeah.
Meet me in Montauk. I mean, that is like, okay, just chill inducing. Now let's talk about, I want to talk about Elijah Wood, because man, was he a creep. And he's a great creep.
Great.
Was he in the one about the dead guy?
He was in the one about throwing jewelry in a volcano.
Which one is that, Joe? What?
With the hairy feet.
I know that one. Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay.
But he was he in the one where the guy washes up Daniel Radcliffe?
Yeah, Swiss Army Man.
Was that Elijah Wood?
No, was he in it? No.
No, Daniel
that's
Radcliffe
correct.
and Paul Dano.
Okay, Paul
That's not
Dano.
Elijah Wood.
There's another creepy. Elijah Wood was in another one. I can't think of the name of the actress. She was in.
He was
the Last
really
of Us.
weird. He was one of the really weird, creepy dudes in Sin City.
Yes,
But
he was horrifying in that.
But that doesn't really narrow it down.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I mean,
didn't see that. I
what was
haven't
his
seen
first thing? Was Searching for Bobby Fischer, and then he was in North, and then he started
No,
to do
he's
like
not in
kind
Searching
of
for
interesting.
Elijah Wood isn't in Searching for Bobby
Searching for
Fischer.
Bobby. It's a different kid that thinks of.
Yeah.
You think of.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
him.
he was
Oh,
in a
wow.
movie. He was in a movie. I don't know if it was his first thing.
That's the
but
Mandela effect.
he and
Apparently.
Macaulay Culkin did a movie together called The Bad Seed.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
I thought it was
Yeah.
The Good Son.
The good.
Or maybe
Son.
that's what it is. The
it's
Good
a
It's
remake
the
of
Good
The
Son.
Bad
It was
Seed.
based on the Bad Seed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Where it's like Culkin plays like the evil little kid, and
Like a
Elijah Wood
psychopath little
plays
kid.
like the nice kid.
Well, anyway, Elijah Wood in this film is a creep.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And
Well,
But
he
I
played,
think he.
I mean,
I
he's
think
not. I mean,
he's a-
he's
what do you
creep.
mean?
He
What do you
fell
mean?
in love with her.
yeah,
based
through
on-
the other guys.
Everything. Yeah, that's right. But,
Deception.
I mean, just as creepy as the Doctor.
Well,
the
here,
Doctor
wait a
was a
second.
creep,
Here's
too.
one thing. Here's where he's stupid. It's like
Who?
in
Elijah
order to
Wood?
win this woman, Elijah Wood, he's going to use the tactics of another guy whose tactics didn't work, and she's erasing it so badly that she's erasing.
Yeah,
it
but he
from his
took
mind.
those were all good memories that he stole. All that stuff Jim Carrey brought in the bag was all good, positive memories.
No,
Yeah.
it was everything that related to her.
Well,
Everything.
you wouldn't have bad memories hanging on your
Well, I
wall.
mean,
That's
it
all good
doesn't-
stuff. It's letters, and you wouldn't be bringing bad memories, or you'd be bringing happy things. So that's what he saw. He saw those little notes that he gave her, the necklace he bought her
Divorce
for
decrees.
Valentine's Day. Divorce decree, yeah, those
Mediation.
Are yeah, I hang
all
those
of
on
that.
my wall, John. I got it.
No, but
I
if
got
you
3
had to
divorce
collect-
decrees on my wall.
If you had to collect every remnant of memories that you had, that would be included.
no, those
Anything
are
that
burned. I burned
references
those.
the other person.
Well, here's the thing. This film, and it doesn't linger on this, but it does show that if such a device, if it existed, could be used for corrupt purposes. You could imagine a government had a device like.
Well, they
this,
didn't
you
really
know?
have high security at that place.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Total
and-
Recall did a better job of that.
But Kirsten Dunst, the way she reacted to what she learned,
well, the way she ratted everybody out.
well, it's just,
Oh, yeah.
it's just listen.
I mean, that's when you find out why they broke up. Is that scene when they each put in the cassette? That's where they list everything about why they ended up breaking apart. That's really where they explained it. They
But
showed a couple of things, right?
Right.
that you
They
could
showed
see a little
some-
bit riff, but those tapes went down a laundry list. Each one
Right.
had a laundry list.
after
So-
they heard the list, then that's when they said, "Okay."
That's what I. That's
And
what
it's
I
beautiful,
liked about
yeah.
the ending. That's
Yeah,
what I
it's
liked
beautiful.
about it.
I did really like the ending of the film.
Yeah.
I will. And I don't want to be like I'm a guy who's like negative to this film. I'm still overall positive.
Did
to
Jim
it. I
Carrey
just
ever
didn't
agree to do one of
feel
your
me as
films?
good.
Is that the problem?
No. I never submitted anything to Jim Carrey. I didn't.
Okay.
No one ever talked out of their ass in any of my scripts.
That was-
Solo mio.
That's legendary. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So,
All right. Well,
I mean, I'm thinking if anyone in this film.
Well, and you're right. That wasn't Elijah Wood, but I figured out why I think Elijah Wood was in Searching for Bobby Fischer. If you look at the poster where the kid's covering
Oh
half
yeah.
of his
Oh,
face, he totally that's so
He
funny.
does. No,
That's so funny. That's
By the way,
exactly
that's a
what
great
happened.
movie. I love that movie.
It is a great movie. That's actually about my cousin. Josh Waitzkin is my cousin. Like
Get outta
6
here.
removed.
For
No,
real?
he is on my mom's side.
Oh,
I don't think
really?
I've ever met him except when we were a little kid. But yeah, no, he's an interesting guy, and that movie is
He was
about
great
you
in
know,
it,
how smart he
and,
was.
John,
The
we're
Father.
surrounded by all these guys have stories about the Civil War that they. What? We have any relatives that did anything?
Well, yeah. I mean, they were
Oh,
leg
no,
breakers and
we
stuff,
can't talk
but,
about
yeah,
it?
I mean, we can't
Oh,
talk about
okay.
that though. You
Got
know
it.
what I'm saying?
Understood.
I have
Oh,
some
I
of
got
those
some of
too,
those
and
too,
I
but
can't talk about them yet.
You know, I could tell you, but I have to kill you. You know.
What about the Portuguese side? Nothing on that side?
The Vidal side's.
Oh, huge.
My grandfather was on the front page of the Boston Globe, upside down in an airplane with some woman that wasn't his wife.
Oh, right. He hit a wire. He hit a wire.
So he got caught in electrical wires.
Yeah.
A friend of Bobby Kennedy.
Wow.
He had those memories erased. His girlfriend didn't.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Or his wife, or his.
He was
daughter.
like that guy was like Howard Hughes. He, honest to God, he was really like Howard Hughes.
It's crazy.
You ever think if you do this in a more limited way, it could save lots of marriages?
But it
erasing
wouldn't.
memory?
That's the whole point. It wouldn't.
Yeah, no.
You know,
Because you fall back into the same stuff.
Yeah.
Better that you have your life together, that you have your problems, and then you deal with
The
it.
only
like an adult.
honest couple in the film was the David Cross and his wife.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know if they had the procedure because they knew about the procedure.
I don't
You
know.
don't know if they
I don't know the
had that,
backstory there. I do
right.
like the idea that this whole movie, the writing started with the card. Somebody gave Kaufman the idea of the card that says,
Yeah.
"Your friend has erased the memory. Don't tell anybody."
That's nifty.
And that was his. That's the reason for the whole film.
And the guy really did that too, didn't he?
What?
That guy, the guy who had the card, really
sent
did
that
print
card
those
out?
and- yeah,
He
sent it
may
out.
have. I have no idea. But.
Yeah, that's how Kaufman got the idea for the story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. All right. Well, let's rate this wonderful, excellent film, John.
I give it. I can't. Yippee-Ki-Yay. I couldn't
Nay or
recommend
in the
this.
middle? Just nay.
Nay.
Oh. Sean?
Yippee-Ki-Yay, but not as strong as it would have been if you'd have caught me years ago watching it.
Okay, that seems to be a thing with you now, but okay. Drew?
Yeah, I'm closer to Sean than not. I definitely a Yippee-Ki-Yay. This is a good film. It didn't punch me emotionally, and I didn't love it the way I did 20 years ago. But it was nice to revisit it, and it's a fine film.
Chris?
Yippee-Ki-Yay, like I said, a lot of good stuff in it, but it just never quite struck me the way that it has other people, and that's okay.
All right, I'm a full-blown Yippee-Ki-Yay, 100%.
Because you're just experiencing it now. If you'd have caught me when I first experienced
Maybe,
it.
and Hassan was right. I just want to say, Hassan, you were right. This movie is amazing. And I do like Sappy. One of our commenters asked me to list any movies that I liked that were sappy, I think because I complained so much about that other one. I'd say this is one of them. This is sappy, but there's a message. There's just it's not sugar. It's honest. This movie's honest because it's about memories and it's about how we relate to experiences in relationships, and I just thought it was fantastic.
Did you guys ever? Were any of you guys Star Trek Next Generation watchers?
Yep.
So there's an episode called Tapestry. It's maybe my favorite episode because it's one I keep coming back to when I think of the show. Where Picard, when he was a kid, when he was a young man in the academy, he got into a bar fight. He got seriously injured. That's why he has an artificial heart, because his heart was so damaged they had to give him a new one. And he gets the opportunity through Q, who's the alien that constantly can change your reality and everything, to go back and change your life. Like, what if you hadn't done that in the bar? What if you hadn't, gotten into that fight? And so Q changes his life, and he's still on the Enterprise, but he's like an ensign who does, menial stuff. And he goes to 10 forward, the bar, and there's the rest of the bridge crew, and they don't really know who he is. And he asks them, what would you say positively about me? And I'm not sure if maybe it's Riker or somebody kind of thinks and goes, well, you're punctual. And it is just it's devastating. And then at the end, Q gives him a chance to change it back. And it does. And you cut back to Picard, basically getting stabbed in the heart and, ready to die. And he's smiling. Yeah. Right. And so, you literally can't get rid of your memories. And even when there's a technology like this movie that says you can get rid of your memories, it doesn't work because you can't erase.
Well, that's
who
the
you
whole
are.
point of,
and that's fascinating.
Kirsten Dunst's character is they erased that, but she still
keeps coming back.
Had a thing for that guy. Now in the book, she had a bunch of abortions too. Did
you read the book?
No. But I read about the book.
Oh, you read someone who talked about the book?
I watched someone talk about
He watched someone. Yeah.
I wouldn't read. Come on.
You ought to read the book. What the hell?
What are you talking about here?
I'm going to listen to somebody who read the book.
See, now I was just about to say something, and then I forgot, and now I can't remember.
Well, it's been removed, but if it's really important, you will remember it and share it.
It'll come up. It'll come up. All right. Well, I thought it was great. Whatever Indian person. I'm not talking right now.
The Indian person loved this movie, by the way, who picked this movie. Loved it.
Take those off, please. Okay, show's over.